Hey guys, tonight we journey into a world lit by gas lamps and the quiet, mysterious glow of undiscovered elements. We're stepping into the life of Marie Curie, a name so synonymous with genius and discovery that it's easy to forget the real, breathing person behind it. We'll follow her from the chilly streets of occupied Poland to the cluttered laboratories of Paris, where she would quite literally touch the building blocks of the universe. It's a story of incredible resilience and intellect, but let's be honest, given the metric tons of radioactive material she handled with her bare hands, you probably wouldn't survive this. She was built different, as they say. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a quiet, no pressure kind of space. And when you're done, I'd love to see you post your location and local time in the comments. It's always comforting to know where we're all drifting off from around the globe. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air is cold. Not just the sharp, damp cold that rises from the Vistula River and snakes through the cobblestone streets of Warsaw, but a deeper, more permanent chill. It's the late 1800s, and your world is one of hushed tones and watchful eyes. The city of your birth is a ghost of its former self, a part of what they call Congress Poland, which is a polite way of saying it's under the thumb of the Russian Empire. The sound of Russian boots on the pavement is as common as the call of the street vendors. Your language, your history, your culture, they are all things to be practiced in private, like a forbidden religion. You are Manya Skłodowska. To your family, in the warm, book-filled apartment that feels like the only safe place in the world, you are simply Manya. It's a much cozier name, and let's be fair, it's a lot easier for your siblings to yell when it's your turn to help with chores. Your home is an island of learning in a sea of suppression. Your father, Władysław, is a professor of mathematics and physics, a man who sees the universe as a grand, elegant puzzle. Your mother, Bronisława, is a gifted musician and the former headmistress of a prestigious girls' boarding school. Books are not decorations in your home. They are companions. Scientific instruments, gleaming brass contraptions, and delicate glass tubes sit on shelves, not as curiosities, but as tools of wonder. For your father, these are the keys to understanding reality, basically the 19th century equivalent of a top-of-the-line gaming rig, but for unlocking the secrets of the cosmos, this is a mainstream historical fact that shaped your entire youth. The policy of Russification was designed to erase Polish identity. At your official school, you are taught in Russian. You must sing hymns to the Tsar. Polish history is rewritten or ignored entirely. But when you come home, the real education begins. Your father, who eventually loses his job and savings due to his pro-Polish sentiments, gathers you and your siblings Zofia, Bronisława, Helena, and Joseph for secret lessons in your own language, teaching you the poetry and history that the state wants you to forget. You learn to live a double life, to present a placid, compliant face to the authorities, while a fire of fierce patriotism and intellectual curiosity burns within. You are the youngest, a bright, observant child with a memory that unnerves your teachers. You learn to read by the age of 4, quietly figuring it out by tracing the letters as your older sister Bronia has her lessons. You don't just memorize facts, You absorb them, connect them, and crave more. You feel the weight of things. You feel the unspoken sadness in your mother, who is often sick, her cough a quiet, persistent rhythm in the house. And you feel the simmering frustration in your father, a brilliant man forced into lesser teaching roles, his potential capped by politics. Then, the quiet sadness of your home deepens into raw tragedy. When you are just 9 years old, your eldest sister, Sophia, catches typhus from one of her brother's patients and dies. It's a brutal, swift loss, a grim reminder that 19th century public health was mostly just good intentions and a whole lot of hoping for the best. The loss cracks the foundation of your small, tight-knit world. Just 2 years later, your mother finally succumbs to a long battle with tuberculosis. The two central pillars of warmth and strength in your young life are gone. The precise impact of these early tragedies on your later scientific stoicism is a matter of gentle debate among biographers. Some argue that these profound losses forged the incredible resilience and emotional discipline you would become famous for. Others suggest they simply walled off a part of your heart, creating a person who could pour every ounce of their being into the dispassionate, logical world of science, because the world of human emotion had already proven too cruel. Whatever the case, something inside you shifts. You renounce the fervent Catholicism of your childhood, unable to reconcile your losses with a benevolent God. Instead, you turn to the clear, unwavering laws of physics and chemistry that your father taught you. They are logical. They are predictable. They do not betray you. You finish your basic education at 15, graduating first in your class with a gold medal. But here, the world slams a door in your face. The University of Warsaw does not accept women. Your formal education, it seems, is over. For a young woman of your staggering intellect, this is not just a disappointment, it's an absurdity. A cage. You watch your brother Józef go off to medical school, and while you are proud, a part of you aches with a profound sense of injustice. The chill of Warsaw deepens. But you are your father's daughter. You have seen how to keep a flame alive in the dark. You and your sister Bronia have a dream, a pact, a dream of a city where a woman can study, a city of light and learning, a city called Paris. The question is, how to get there. The gold medal from your graduation is a cold comfort. It sits in a small box, a testament to a race you won only to find the finish line was a locked gate. You are 18, brimming with knowledge and ambition, but the world has presented you with a definitive no. In Warsaw, for a woman, this is where the path ends. But you were raised on stories of defiance, taught in secret rooms how to keep a culture alive. If the official doors are barred, you must find another way. And so, you do. You and your sister Bronia, who shares your unquenchable thirst for a life beyond the one prescribed, make a pact. It is a quiet, solemn agreement made over weak tea in the dim light of your father's apartment. It is a plan as audacious as it is desperate. Bronia will go to Paris first, to study medicine at the Sorbonne. You will stay behind, work as a governess, and send her your earnings to support her. It's a sort of 19th century GoFundMe, powered by sisterhood and sheer will. Once she is a doctor, she will return the favor, bringing you to Paris to begin your own studies. It will mean years of separation, of toil, of waiting. But the vision of Paris, of lecture halls and laboratories, burns brightly enough to illuminate the long, dark road ahead. While you search for work, you refuse to let your mind lie fallow. You find your way to an institution that exists only in whispers and shuffled addresses, the Universitat Lauderdale, the Flying University. This was a real, clandestine network, a secret college for women, operating in defiance of the Russian authorities. Despite its wonderfully adventurous name, there were no actual wings or propellers involved, which, considering the state of 19th century engineering, was probably for the best. Instead, its flight was its constant movement. Classes on sociology, literature, anatomy, and science were held in private apartments, the location changing constantly to avoid discovery. You huddle in a cramped living room with 24 other young women, the air thick with the smell of wet wool coats and the electric hum of shared intellectual curiosity. A professor, risking their own career and freedom, lectures in Polish by the light of a single flickering lamp. You take notes furiously, your mind crackling back to life. Here, in these secret, shifting rooms, you are not just a girl with no prospects. You are a scholar, a patriot, a participant in a quiet rebellion. It is a taste of the freedom you crave, and it makes you hungrier still. Soon, you find a position. You are to be a governess for the Żurawski family, wealthy landowners in a remote village far from the intellectual pulse of Warsaw. You pack your few belongings, your books, and the promise you made to your sister, and step into a profound isolation. Your role is a strange one, somewhere between family and servant, a long-term, underpaid house guest whose presence is both necessary and slightly awkward. The parents are pleasant enough, the children your responsibility, but the intellectual silence is deafening. There are no secret lectures here, no peers with whom to debate ideas. There is only the vast, flat landscape, the changing seasons, and the quiet of your own small room. So you build a university for one. At night, after the children are asleep, you light a candle and read. You devour books on mathematics, physics, and chemistry that your father sends you. You work through problems, teaching yourself the complex principles you know you will need. You even find a chemist at a nearby sugar beet factory who allows you to perform some rudimentary experiments. Your first real taste of a laboratory, and in a small, risky act of defiance, you begin teaching the local peasant children how to read and write in Polish, using your own time and resources. You cannot bear to see other minds left in the dark. During this lonely vigil, something unexpected happens. You fall in love. The family's eldest son, Kazimierz, a handsome university student home for the holidays, sees you not as the humble governess, but as a brilliant, captivating woman. He is drawn to your mind, your quiet intensity. You walk together, talk for hours about your dreams, and for a moment, a different future seems possible, a future of love, partnership, and perhaps an end to this long wait. He declares his intention to marry you, but the Żurawskis are horrified. Their son, heir to their estate, marrying a penniless governess with no connections. It is unthinkable. The rejection is swift and absolute. Kazimierz, despite his promises, cannot or will not defy his parents. The dream evaporates, leaving behind the bitter sting of humiliation and the cold reality of social class. Primary sources offer conflicting accounts regarding the depth of your despair during these years. Was it a soul-crushing blow that nearly ended your ambitions? Or was it simply another painful lesson in a life that had already taught you not to rely on anything but yourself and your own strength. Either way, you remain. You have a promise to keep. For 3 long, grinding years, you continue to work, to study, to save. Every spare ruble is carefully bundled and sent to Bronya in Paris. Letters from her are your lifeline, filled with tales of the Sorbonne, of lectures and dissections, of the vibrant life you are working so hard to one day join. The heartbreak fades, replaced by a hardened, focused resolve. The wait feels endless, a gray, unchanging landscape. And then, one evening, a letter arrives. It is from Bronya. She's about to graduate. She's getting married to a fellow doctor, and she has bought you a train ticket. Come, she writes. Paris is waiting. The train rattles across the European continent, each clack of the wheels on the track a syllable in the word freedom. The journey from Warsaw to Paris feels longer, somehow, than the 6 years you spent as a governess. You are leaving behind the world of Manya Skłodowska, a world of secret lessons and stifled ambition. You are hurtling towards the world of Marie, a name that feels lighter, more sophisticated, a name for a scientist. When the train finally pulls into the Gare du Nord, the air that hits you is different. It smells of coal smoke, roasted chestnuts, and possibility. Your sister Bronya and her new husband, Kazimierz Dłuski, another Polish patriot and doctor, welcome you into their bustling Parisian apartment. It is a haven of warmth, lively debate, and familiar Polish cooking. For the first time in years, you are not lonely. You are surrounded by people who understand your journey, who share your intellectual fire. It is wonderful. It is comfortable. And you quickly realize it is a problem. The lively social gatherings, the late-night political discussions, the simple domesticity. They are all distractions from the one thing you came here for. You enroll at the Sorbonne, the hallowed science faculty of the University of Paris. Standing before its imposing, ancient facade, you feel a sense of homecoming. Inside, it's a swirling universe of thousands of students. Young men in dark suits fill the tiered lecture halls, their chatter a low hum of French, a language you are still mastering. You are one of only a handful of women, but for the first time, you are not an anomaly seeking special permission. You are simply a student, registered under your new name, Manya Skłodowska. The anonymity is a relief. Here, your mind is the only thing that matters. After a few months, you make a decision that worries Bronya. You are moving out. You need to be closer to the university, to the libraries and laboratories. More than that, you need solitude. You need to create an environment of pure, unadulterated focus. Historians still ponder the extent to which this self-imposed austerity was a necessity versus a deliberate choice, a conscious effort to strip away every possible comfort and distraction, leaving only the stark, beautiful pursuit of knowledge. You find a room in the Latin Quarter, the student district. It is a garret, a small attic space at the top of 6 long flights of stairs. Its list of amenities is impressively short. It has 4 walls, a floor, and a skylight that lets in the Parisian rain as often as the sun. There is no heat, no running water, no electricity, no Wi-Fi. Of course, no private bathroom, not even a decent draft. To get water, you must haul a bucket up those 6 flights. To stay warm in the brutal Parisian winters, you wear every piece of clothing you own to bed, piling your coat on top of the thin blanket. Your life becomes a Spartan routine of study. You live on buttered bread, cherries, and tea. This becomes your signature meal, the original sad student dinner long before instant noodles were even a glimmer in a food scientist's eye. You spend your days in the university lecture halls, soaking in the words of France's greatest scientific minds. You spend your evenings in the Sainte-Geneviève Library, a beautiful, warm, and well-lit sanctuary, reading until you are gently asked to leave at closing time. Then it's back to your cold little room, where you study by the light of a single oil lamp until your eyelids are too heavy to stay open. The hardship is real. There are days the hunger is a constant, gnawing ache. You faint, on at least one occasion, from simple malnutrition. You are often cold, perpetually tired, but this physical reality runs parallel to an experience of pure intellectual ecstasy. You are learning. You are finally, truly learning, without reservation or restriction. Every complex equation you master, every physical law you come to understand, feels like a feast. The nourishment for your mind is so profound that it makes the emptiness in your stomach seem a trivial price to pay. You are alone, but you are not lonely. You are consumed by your purpose. Your sacrifice and singular focus yield spectacular results. In 1893, at the age of 26, you complete your degree in physics, finishing first in your class. Your professors, recognizing your extraordinary talent, encourage you to stay and pursue a second degree, this time in mathematics. You scrape by on a small scholarship meant for outstanding Polish students, and you begin the cycle again. You are on your way to becoming a master of the physical sciences. Your world is one of principles, laws, and abstract theories. But science is not always a solitary pursuit. Sometimes it requires a partner. And in the heart of this city of light, a fellow scientist, a man with a quiet and serious passion that mirrors your own, is about to walk into your life. You have conquered the mountain of theoretical knowledge, earning your degrees in both physics and mathematics with a distinction that leaves your professors in awe. Now, it is time to put that knowledge to work. You accept a research commission from the Society for the Encouragement of National Industry. Your task is practical, industrial, to conduct a detailed study on the magnetic properties of various types of steel. It's a project that requires precision, patience, and something your garret decidedly lacks: highly specialized equipment. This practical need becomes the hinge upon which your entire life turns. A Polish physicist visiting from Switzerland, a mutual acquaintance, listens to your problem. He knows a man, he says, a brilliant and somewhat unconventional scientist in Paris who is a leading expert on magnetism. He might have the laboratory space, and perhaps even the instruments you require. His name is Pierre Curie. Your friend arranges an introduction. It's the 19th century equivalent of a perfectly timed LinkedIn connection, only with more formal calling cards and fewer tedious emails. The meeting takes place not in a bustling cafe or a formal sitting room, but in the functional clutter of a physics laboratory. You expect a formidable, perhaps arrogant, French professor. Instead, you find a tall man with clear, thoughtful eyes and a gentle, almost shy demeanor. He is 35 years old, the chief of the laboratory at the Municipal School of Industrial Physics and Chemistry. And from the first moments you speak, you feel a startling sense of recognition. He doesn't talk down to you or express surprise at your depth of knowledge. He simply talks to you, scientist to scientist. The conversation flows effortlessly from magnetism to crystallography to the nature of symmetry in the physical world. What might have been a first date for others, a discussion of magnetic hysteresis curves, is not everyone's idea of a romantic evening. But for you two, it's basically poetry. You are captivated by the clarity and elegance of his mind. He, in turn, is utterly astonished. He writes in his diary later that he has met a woman of genius. In the Paris of the 1890s, he had thought such a thing impossible. Pierre is already a scientist of considerable note. Years earlier, working with his brother Jacques, he had discovered the phenomenon of piezoelectricity, the now famous principle that certain crystals, when squeezed, produce a small electric potential. It's a foundational concept in modern electronics, lying dormant in everything from quartz watches to microphones. But Pierre is an idealist who cares nothing for fame or awards. He has consistently refused to pursue the more prestigious and better-paying professorships. Preferring the freedom of his modest city-run lab, he is a dreamer, a man who lives in the world of ideas, and in you, he has found a fellow citizen of that world. A friendship blossoms, nurtured by long walks along the Seine and even longer conversations. You discuss everything the potential for science to alleviate human suffering, your shared agnosticism, your hopes for a more just and rational world. He sees your passion, your unyielding integrity, and your profound loneliness. He falls in love. Soon, he asks you to marry him, to join your life with his, and create what he calls a scientific dynasty. You hesitate. This was never part of the plan. The pact you made with Bronya, the years of scrimping and saving, the lonely nights in the garret, it was all powered by one goal: to return to Poland and use your knowledge to serve your homeland. You are a daughter of Warsaw, and the dream of teaching there, of caring for your aging father, is a powerful, deep-rooted thing. You confess this to Pierre. His response is extraordinary. He tells you he is prepared to move to Poland with you. He will learn Polish, he says, and make a living teaching French if he must, just to be with you. That summer, you return to Poland to test the waters of your dream. The reality is a cold shock. You inquire about a position at the university in Krakow, only to be politely but firmly rejected. There is no place for a woman in their academic ranks. The door is just as locked as it was years ago. Biographers remain divided on the primary motivation for your return to Paris after that summer. Was it the irresistible pull of Pierre's devotion and your shared scientific future, or the final, heartbreaking push from a beloved Poland that still refused to see you as anything more than a woman? Perhaps it was both. You return to Paris and to Pierre. You accept his proposal. On a summer's day in 1895, you are married in a simple, secular ceremony at the town hall. There is no white dress, no religious blessing. You wear a dark blue, woolen outfit. A practical choice, you note, because it will be easy to clean and suitable for wear in the laboratory. It's the ultimate statement in minimalist, sustainable fashion, a full century before the term existed. For your honeymoon, you buy 2 new bicycles with the money given to you as a gift, and you set off on a tour of the French countryside. You are no longer Manya Skłodowska, the solitary student. You are not yet Madame Curie, the global icon. For this brief, golden moment, you are simply Marie Curie, a newlywed scientist, cycling through sun-dappled lanes with your husband, the world of invisible forces and hidden elements waiting patiently just around the bend. The rhythm of your life finds a new, harmonious cadence. You are Madame Curie now, a wife, a scientific collaborator, and in 1897, a mother, your first daughter, Irene, arrives, a small, wondrous being who introduces the joyful, chaotic variable of parenthood into your carefully structured world. You learn to balance the meticulous demands of the laboratory with the immediate, tender needs of your child, proving that heroic multitasking has been a parental superpower long before the invention of coffee makers or smartphones. Pierre's father moves in to help, a benevolent, white-bearded presence who adores his granddaughter, freeing you to pursue the question that is beginning to form in your mind. What will you investigate for your doctoral thesis? To find the answer, you look to the scientific currents of your time. The air in every university in Europe is buzzing with the news of invisible rays. In 1895, a German physicist named Wilhelm Röntgen had discovered that a certain type of vacuum tube could emit mysterious emanations that passed through solid objects, which he called X-rays. They were a sensation, a parlor trick, and a medical miracle all at once. The world was suddenly fascinated by the unseen. This excitement led another scientist, a Parisian named Henri Becquerel, to investigate a related phenomenon. He wondered if certain fluorescent minerals, after being exposed to sunlight, would emit X-rays. He places some uranium salts on a photographic plate wrapped in black paper and sets them on his windowsill. But the Parisian sky, in its infinite wisdom, remains gray and overcast for days. Frustrated, Becquerel develops the plate anyway, expecting to see nothing. Instead, he finds a clear, sharp silhouette of the uranium crystals. The salts had emitted their own rays, with no help from the sun. This is the mainstream historical fact that opens the door for you the spontaneous, accidental discovery of what would later be called radioactivity. It's a fascinating puzzle, but after an initial flurry of interest, the scientific community mostly shrugs and moves on. The uranium rays are weak, subtle, and seemingly without application. X-rays were the star of the show, powerful and dramatic. The collective attention of most researchers, a bit like that of a cat in a room full of laser pointers, was fixed on Röntgen's discovery. Scholarly inquiry continues into why this tiny new field was so quickly abandoned by the majority of Becquerel's contemporaries. Was it the subtlety of the effect, or simply the lack of an immediate, spectacular payoff for you? This scientific neglect is not a deterrent. It's an invitation. A whole field of study, brand new and mysterious, lies untouched. It is the perfect subject for a doctoral dissertation. It is a chance to map an entirely new territory. Pierre agrees, and with his full support, you begin your work in a small, damp storeroom at his school that you convert into a makeshift laboratory. You decide on a revolutionary approach. Becquerel had used photographic plates, which showed an effect but couldn't easily measure its intensity. You need hard data. You need numbers. And for that, you turn to an instrument Pierre and his brother had invented years before the electrometer. It's a device that can detect and measure the faint electrical currents that these mysterious rays produce as they pass through the air. It is a sensitive, finicky piece of equipment, but it turns a qualitative mystery into a quantitative puzzle. You don't just study uranium. With meticulous, systematic patience, you begin to test every element and mineral you can get your hands on. You test metals, salts, oxides, ores. It's the 19th century scientific equivalent of methodically swiping left on dozens of boring, chemically stable elements until you find one that seems to have a special spark. Soon, You find another thorium gives off the same strange rays. But it's not the discovery of thorium's activity that marks your first great breakthrough. It is a conclusion you draw from your relentless measurements of uranium itself. You find that the intensity of the rays is directly proportional to the amount of uranium in the sample. It doesn't matter if the uranium is powdered or solid, wet or dry, pure or in a compound. The rays are not the result of a chemical reaction between atoms. They are coming from within the atom itself. This is a profound, earth-shaking idea. At the time, the atom is thought to be the fundamental, indivisible, billiard ball-like particle of reality. It is seen as immutable and eternal, but your measurements suggest something else entirely. The atom is not a passive, solid speck of matter. It is an active, energetic place. It is a source of power. This is the moment the classical view of the universe begins to crack, and your systematic work reveals an even more tantalizing clue. You test a sample of pitchblende, the dark, heavy ore from which uranium is extracted. According to your calculations, based on its uranium content, it should have a certain level of activity, but it doesn't. The pitchblende is 4 times more radioactive than the pure uranium within it could account for. You check your measurements. You check them again. The electrometer does not lie. The logical conclusion is inescapable. The pitchblende must contain another element, something new to science, hidden in tiny quantities within the ore. And whatever this new element is, it must be astonishingly, powerfully radioactive. The hunt is on. The needle on the electrometer is a silent, steady witness. Your logic is sound. Your measurements are repeatable. The pitchblende ore holds a secret that the known laws of physics cannot explain. You are standing at the edge of a discovery, but to take the next step, you need to prove it. You need to find this mysterious, hyperactive element and hold it in your hand. Pierre, who had been watching your solo flight into this new realm with growing excitement, now sees the profound implications. This is not just a curious anomaly. This could change the fundamental understanding of matter. With a quiet, decisive commitment that will define the rest of his life, he puts his own beloved research on crystals aside. Your quest is now his quest. It is no longer your doctoral thesis. It is their shared obsession. To hunt for an element, you need more than a converted storeroom. You need space to perform large-scale chemical separations. You appeal to the director of the school, who offers you a space across the courtyard, an abandoned shed. Academic circles are still divided about whether the school's director offered the shed out of genuine support for your promising work, or as a polite way to isolate this strange, messy, and potentially hazardous business from the rest of his institution. Whatever the motive, the shed is yours. It is less a laboratory and more a ruin. It had once served as a dissecting room for the medical school, a fact that perhaps explains the lingering, hard-to-define drafts and the general feeling of scientific ghosts sighing in the corners. The floor is rough-packed earth. The single stove offers a pathetic defense against the brutal chill of a Parisian winter. The glass roof, meant to illuminate the space, leaks when it rains and turns the shed into a sweltering greenhouse in the summer. A German chemist visiting at the time would famously describe it as a cross between a stable and a potato cellar. It is drafty, damp, and utterly unsuitable. It is perfect. It is yours. The problem you face is one of scale. This new element, if it exists, is present in the pitchblende in unbelievably tiny amounts. To isolate even a minuscule speck of it, You will need to process not grams, but tons of the raw ore. Through a contact at the Austrian government, you arrange for the St. Joachimsthal mine in Bohemia, which extracts uranium for the glass industry, to send you their waste slag. Soon, sacks of the dark, heavy ore, mixed with pine needles from the forest floor where it was dumped, begin to arrive in the courtyard outside your shed. Now begins the truly Herculean labor. This is not the clean, delicate science of theory and measurement. This is raw, industrial toil. You, a petite woman who had fainted from hunger in her student garret, now spend your days in the courtyard, dressed in a dusty, acid-stained smock. You stand over enormous, boiling cauldrons, stirring the sludgy, caustic mixture for hours at a time with a heavy iron rod nearly as tall as you are. The fumes are acrid and choke the air. Your hands are raw, your muscles ache. It's less eureka and more my back hurts. A gritty reality of scientific discovery that rarely makes it into the textbooks. Your partnership with Pierre becomes a finely tuned machine. While you handle the grueling, large-scale chemistry outside, he works inside the shed, the stable cellar, with the more delicate instruments. You painstakingly separate the pitchblende into its chemical components using a process called fractional crystallization. It's a mind-numbingly repetitive task. You dissolve a batch of material, let some of it crystallize out, and then test the crystals and the remaining liquid to see which part is more radioactive. The process is a bit like trying to isolate a single, specific grain of sugar from a bathtub full of salt by repeatedly dissolving and recrystallizing it, tasting tiny spoonfuls each time to see if they're getting sweeter. You are the chemist. He is the physicist. You would bring him a small amount of liquid in a beaker or crystals in a porcelain dish, and he would place it in the electrometer. You would watch the needle together. Is it this one? The needle's climb would give you the answer. It's a slow, painstaking conversation with the raw matter of the universe. Most fractions are duds, their activity dropping off. But with every cycle, some become more and more potent. The invisible force within them grows stronger. Days bleed into weeks, weeks into months. You work through blistering heat and freezing cold. Your shared purpose, a quiet, steady flame in the damp air of the shed. At night, you return home, exhausted, to your daughter Irene, your clothes smelling of chemicals, your mind still churning through the day's results. Then you begin again the next morning, slowly, painfully. You are coaxing a secret out of a ton of rock, chasing an invisible glow, getting closer and closer to something the world has never seen. The shed, with its leaky roof and earthen floor, becomes a crucible of discovery. The mind-numbing, back-breaking process of fractional crystallization is working. With each painstaking cycle, the invisible force you are chasing becomes less and less diluted. You and Pierre watch the electrometer's needle with the intensity of ancient priests reading an oracle, and the oracle is telling you that you are close. By the summer of 1898, your relentless work has concentrated a substance chemically similar to the element bismuth that is 400 times more radioactive than uranium. You are now certain. This is not a fluke or a measurement error. You have found one of the sources of the pitchblende's mysterious power. You and Pierre co-author a paper announcing your findings, but a new element needs a name. This is your discovery, born from your initial insight, and Pierre insists you have the honor. You choose a name that reaches back across the continent to the cold streets of your youth, to the city of your birth. You name it Polonium, It is a declaration. At a time when Poland did not exist as a sovereign state on any map, you place its name among the eternal elements in the tables of science. Some historians question whether the naming of polonium was a calculated political statement designed to bring the plight of your nation to international attention, or a purely sentimental gesture from a homesick patriot. In truth, it was likely both an act of science and an act of love. You have found it. The triumph is immense. But there's a baffling problem. After you have chemically removed the polonium-bearing compounds from your pitchblende solution, you test what remains. It is still intensely radioactive. The numbers don't lie. The radioactivity of the remaining material is actually far greater than what the polonium could account for. The realization dawns on you with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. There isn't just one new element in the ore. There are two. It's like thinking you've rescued a single stray kitten from the rain, only to realize it has a much louder brother hiding just behind the woodpile. So the hunt begins anew. This second element is even more elusive, but its power is on another level entirely. You follow the activity again, and this time it seems to track with the element barium. More cauldrons are stirred, more filtrations, more crystallizations. The shed continues to be a place of fumes and fatigue, but now it's charged with the thrill of being on the verge of a second, even greater discovery. Finally, just before Christmas in 1898, you succeed. You produce a tiny amount of barium chloride in a small porcelain dish that is an astonishing 900 times more radioactive than pure uranium. There is no doubt in your minds. You have found the second child of the pitchblende. For this element, you choose a name that speaks to its defining characteristic, its incredible power. You call it radium, from the Latin word radius, meaning ray. In the same paper, you coin a new term for the phenomenon itself, the spontaneous emission of these powerful rays. You call it radioactivity. The work is all-consuming, draining you both physically and mentally. But one night, the universe gives you a small, magical gift in return. Unable to sleep, or perhaps drawn back by a nagging thought, you and Pierre return to the cold, dark shed. You open the door and stand there in the pitch blackness, and you see it. The various glass beakers and porcelain dishes containing your most concentrated radium salts are glowing. They are emitting a faint, ethereal, blue-green light, like captive stars. It is a moment of pure, silent magic, the universe winking back at you from a few small containers on a messy workbench. It's the kind of glow you read about in fairy tales, but it is real, a beautiful and silent reward for your years of toil. You have named two elements and coined a new scientific term. But the scientific establishment, being a famously tough crowd, essentially said, "That's a nice story, but show us the receipts." A glowing substance and a jumpy electrometer needle were not definitive proof. To convince the world, you would need to perform a far more daunting task. You had to isolate radium in its pure, metallic state, determine its atomic weight, and prove unequivocally where it belonged on the periodic table. The ghostly glow in the shed was a beautiful promise, but the hardest work was yet to come. The ghostly glow in the darkness of your shed is a beautiful promise, but it isn't proof. The world of science, a world you deeply respect, operates on verifiable facts and cold, hard numbers. And the number you need is radium's atomic weight. To get it, you must isolate radium in its purest form, a task so daunting it makes your previous work seem like a warm-up exercise. So begins another 4 years of relentless, back-breaking labor. From 1898 to 1902, the shed remains the center of your universe. More tons of pitchblende arrive. More vats of chemicals bubble and steam in the courtyard. You continue the same grueling process of chemical separation and fractional crystallization, refining and re-refining your samples. It is a marathon of patience and physical endurance. It's a level of single-minded dedication that, in our modern world, makes binge-watching an entire season of a television show seem like a monumental achievement. Then, in 1902, you succeed. After processing several tons of ore, you finally produce 1/10 of a gram of pure radium chloride, a tiny pinch of white, crystalline salt that is the culmination of nearly a half-decade of toil. It is enough. You are able to make your measurements. You calculate radium's atomic weight as 225. You have placed it on the periodic table. The skeptics are silenced. Radium is real. This monumental work forms the core of your doctoral thesis. In the spring of 1903, you finally stand before the examining committee at the Sorbonne. It is less a defense and more a victory lap. The audience is packed with luminaries of European science, all there to see the woman who had turned the world of physics on its head. It must have been the most overqualified job interview in history, where the candidate had already discovered 2 elements and founded a new field of science. You are awarded your doctorate with the highest honors. Later that year, news comes of another, even greater honor. A nomination is put forth for the Nobel Prize in Physics for the revolutionary work on the phenomenon of radiation. The nominees are Henri Becquerel for his initial discovery, and your husband and collaborator, Pierre Curie. Your name is not on the list. In the eyes of the French Academy of Sciences, you were merely the assistant, the diligent helper to your husband's genius, despite the fact that the entire line of inquiry began with your insight, your methodology, and your doctoral research. When Pierre learns of the omission, he is incensed. This quiet, reserved man, who cared so little for official honors, reveals a core of unshakable integrity. He immediately writes to the Nobel Committee. His message is firm and unequivocal. He will not be considered for the prize if you are not also recognized. The work, he insists, was a shared creation, a true partnership, and that the original discovery of radioactivity in pitchblende was yours alone. Historical records are clear on Pierre's powerful intervention, but the private deliberations of the Nobel Committee that followed remain a subject of academic speculation and debate. Faced with the potential embarrassment of a public refusal from one of the nominees, the committee relents. In December 1903, the Nobel Prize in Physics is awarded jointly to Henri Becquerel, Pierre Curie, and you, Marie Curie. You have become the first woman in the history of the world to win a Nobel Prize. It is a monumental victory, a testament to your genius and to the strength of your partnership with Pierre. But the prize carries a heavy price. The telegram from Stockholm shatters the quiet, focused life you both cherished. Suddenly, you are not just scientists, you are international celebrities. It's as if a quiet indie band that was happy playing in small clubs suddenly has a global #1 hit. Reporters hound you at your home. Photographers follow you down the street. Your mailbox is flooded with letters from strangers asking for money, autographs, or opinions on every subject imaginable. This glare of public attention is a torment, draining your time and your energy. And underneath this new social pressure lies a more insidious threat. A deep, unshakable weariness has taken root in both of you. Pierre suffers from excruciating, debilitating pains in his legs and back, which doctors diagnose as rheumatism. You are perpetually exhausted, anemic. You attribute it all to the years of overwork in the damp, drafty shed. You do not yet understand that the beautiful, magical glow of your radium is a slow, silent poison. The very thing that brought you world acclaim is secretly consuming you from within. You are both too ill and too overwhelmed to even travel to Stockholm to accept your prize in person. The greatest triumph of your lives has arrived, but it has brought a long, dark shadow with it. The storm of fame eventually subsides, or rather, you learn to build higher walls against it. Life, for a brief and precious period, seems to find a new, more hopeful rhythm. In December 1904, your second daughter, Eve, is born. Where Irene is serious and scientifically minded like her father, Eve is vibrant, artistic, and full of laughter. She is a burst of sunlight in your often exhausting lives. Professionally, the world finally catches up to Pierre's genius. The Sorbonne at last creates a professorship specifically for him, and with it comes the promise of a brand new, fully equipped laboratory. It is everything you have both dreamed of for years: proper funding, dedicated assistants, and a workspace that isn't a glorified shed. It's a cruel, quiet twist of fate, the universe finally granting a long-held wish just as it's about to become utterly meaningless. For a short time, however, it feels like a new beginning. You have your two beautiful daughters, your shared work, and the resources to pursue the mysteries of radium without constraint. The future feels solid, tangible, and bright. Then comes April 19th, 1906. It is a dismal, gray Parisian day. A steady, cold rain has been falling for hours, turning the cobblestone streets slick and treacherous. Pierre, after a morning of work, leaves for a luncheon with fellow academics. He is preoccupied, his mind likely wrestling with the complex data from your experiments, his body still aching with the chronic pains that never seem to leave him. He walks under the shelter of his large black umbrella, navigating the bustling, rain-soaked city. He makes his way across the Pont Neuf and steps onto the busy, narrow Rue Dauphine, crowded with carriages and pedestrians. He needs to cross the street. He steps out from behind a cab, directly into the path of a heavy, horse-drawn wagon loaded with 6 tons of military uniforms. The driver sees him, yells. The great Percheron horses rear up, but on the wet, greasy cobblestones, there is no traction. There is no time. Pierre slips, falls. In an instant, the rear wheel of the massive wagon passes over his head. It is a quiet, chilling reminder that a mind that can unlock the secrets of the atom is no match for a slippery cobblestone and a single moment of inattention. Biographers have long debated the precise role Pierre's radiation-induced fatigue and chronic pain might have played in the accident. Was he simply lost in thought, his mind on a higher plane of scientific theory? Or was his body less responsive, his senses dulled by the mysterious ailment that had plagued him for years? The question can never be answered. The result is the same. Pierre Curie, age 46, Nobel laureate, is gone. The news is brought to you at home. 2 men from the university, their faces pale, stand at your door. The world does not explode. It simply stops. The ticking of the clock, the sound of the rain against the window pane, the distant rumble of the city, it all fades into a vast, silent, and empty hum. your partner, your collaborator, your confidant, the only other person on earth who truly understood your shared world, has been extinguished by the sheer, brutal randomness of city traffic. Your grief is not loud or performative. It is a retreat into a profound and silent coldness that shocks those around you. You do not weep, at least not where anyone can see. You move with a mechanical, eerie calm. You oversee the grim arrangements. You seclude yourself with your children. The entire world mourns the loss of a great scientist, but your loss is absolute. The center of your universe has vanished. You begin a new diary, but it is not for your own thoughts. It is a series of letters addressed to your dead husband. My Pierre. It begins. The pages become the only place you can speak to him, the silent paper partner that has replaced the living one. You detail your days, your research, your hollowed-out existence. I put on your waistcoat. You write one day, and it still holds the faint shape of your body. You are Madame Curie, the famous scientist, the Nobel Prize winner. But in the quiet of your room, you are a 38-year-old widow, alone with 2 young girls, and a silence so complete, so deafening, that it threatens to swallow you whole. The shared journey is over, and now you must face the darkness and the glowing elements you discovered together, utterly alone. In the echoing silence of your new life, the world expects you to collapse. You are a widow, a single mother with 2 young children, your great scientific partner torn away from you. The French government, in a gesture of pity and respect, offers you a state pension, the typical arrangement for the widow of a great man. It is an offer to retreat, to live out your days in quiet, state-sponsored grief. You refuse it, politely, but with an unbending firmness that surprises them. You declare your intention to work, to support yourself and your family on your own terms. It is a quiet, powerful statement that echoes through Paris. I am not a victim to be pitied. I am a scientist, and I have work to do. This declaration forces a dilemma upon the leadership at the Sorbonne. The professorship created for Pierre, one of the most prestigious chairs in French academia, is now empty. Who on earth could possibly fill it as they survey the landscape of physics? A single, inescapable conclusion presents itself. There is only one person with the knowledge, the experience, and the intimate understanding of this new science to carry the work forward. In a move that is utterly unprecedented, the University Council offers the chair to you. In the entire 650-year history of the Sorbonne, no woman has ever held a professorship. There is some scholarly disagreement about the university's motives. Was it a moment of sudden, progressive enlightenment, a bold stroke for gender equality? Or was it simply the logical, undeniable realization that you were the only person on the planet truly qualified for the job, regardless of the reason? You accept. The grief that threatened to swallow you now has a focus, a channel. You will become Madame Professor Curie. Your first lecture is scheduled for November 5th, 1906 at 1:30 in the afternoon. The event becomes a sensation. The large amphitheater is packed to the rafters, every seat taken, the aisles crowded with people standing. It is not just your students who have come. It is a sea of journalists, society ladies in their finest hats, artists, politicians, and academics from every field. They have come for the spectacle. They want to see the famous widow. They want to see if you will weep, if you will begin with a dramatic, emotional eulogy for your lost husband. They came expecting theater, You decide to give them physics instead. A hush falls as you enter from a side door. You are a small, almost frail figure, dressed in a simple, unadorned black dress. Your face is pale, your expression unreadable. You walk to the lectern, place your notes down, and for a moment, you simply stand there, surveying the hundreds of curious faces staring back at you. You take a breath, and then you begin. You do not mention Pierre. You do not acknowledge the historic nature of the occasion. You simply pick up the lecture at the exact sentence where your husband had stopped in his last notebook. When one considers the progress that has been made in physics in the last 10 years, the effect is electric. The entire room understands the power of the gesture. There is no sentimentality, no personal drama. There is only the work. It is the purest, most profound tribute you could possibly have paid him, an assertion that the scientific quest you began together was a living, breathing thing that would not be stopped by death. It was the ultimate act of defiance against your grief, an insistence that the sacred thing you both built would not die with him. You lecture for an hour on the theories of electricity and ionized particles, your voice clear and steady. When you are finished, a storm of applause erupts, an ovation not just for the science, but for the sheer, quiet strength of the human spirit. You throw yourself into your new role with a ferocious intensity. Your life is now a carefully partitioned schedule of teaching, raising your daughters, and pursuing your research. The grief is always there, a constant, low hum beneath the surface of your days, but you do not allow it to rule you. Your ambition, now unshared, becomes even more focused. You are determined to build the state-of-the-art laboratory that Pierre was promised, a true temple to your new science. It will not just be a lab, it will be an institute, the Radium Institute. It is a way to build a living monument, a future he never got to see. The path ahead is solitary, but for the first time since that rainy April day, it is clear. The years after you assume Pierre's chair are a blur of focused, solitary work. You are a professor, a mother, and a tireless researcher, pushing the science of radioactivity forward. You succeed in preparing a pure sample of radium metal, a feat of chemistry that definitively ends any lingering questions about its status as an element. You work to establish the first international standard for measuring radium, a unit that will be known as the Curie. Your life, though lonely, has found a stable, productive rhythm. The Radium Institute is slowly moving from a dream on paper to a plan set in motion. In this world of intense scientific focus, you find a rare intellectual companionship with Paul Langevin, a brilliant physicist who had been one of Pierre's most gifted students. He, like you, speaks the language of theoretical physics, a language few others can understand. He is also a man trapped in a desperately unhappy marriage, his home life a place of turmoil and abuse. You find in each other a mutual intellectual respect and a deep, personal sympathy. A friendship deepens into love. For a brief time, in the quiet of a small apartment rented near the Sorbonne, you find a measure of private happiness and a respite from your profound loneliness. Then, in 1911, your private world is violently detonated. Langevin's wife, discovering letters between you and her husband, leaks them to the most sensationalist right-wing newspapers in Paris. The scandal explodes like a wildfire. The press, which had once sanctified you as the grieving, noble widow, turns on you with a shocking ferocity. It's a stark, brutal lesson in the fickle nature of public adoration. The same hands that build the pedestal are often the first to try and knock it over. You are no longer Saint Marie. You are the foreign homewrecker. The attacks are deeply personal, laced with the ugliest strains of xenophobia and sexism. They call you a Polish Jew a lie, as your family was Catholic. But it was a common slur meant to paint you as an outsider. You are portrayed as a cold, calculating intellectual, a dangerous woman threatening the sanctity of the French family. Academic analysis of the press coverage at the time reveals a complex web of motivations, blending simple, lurid sensationalism with a targeted political attack on a prominent foreigner, a woman, and a symbol of secular science. The public outcry is terrifying. Mobs gather outside your home, throwing stones and shouting insults. You are forced to take refuge with friends, smuggling your daughters out of the city. Paul Langevin fights a duel with one of the newspaper editors to defend your honor. You are at the absolute bottom of a pit of public humiliation, your name and character being systematically destroyed. And then, at the very height of this nightmare, a telegram arrives from Stockholm. The universe, it seems, possesses a dark and dramatic flair for irony. The Swedish Academy of Sciences announces that you have been awarded the 1911 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. This time, it is yours alone, for your services to the advancement of chemistry, by the discovery of the elements radium and polonium, by the isolation of radium and the study of the nature and compounds of this remarkable element. You are the first person in history to win 2 Nobel Prizes. To this day, you remain the only person to have ever won in 2 different scientific fields. It is a moment of breathtaking duality. You are experiencing your greatest professional triumph in the exact same week as your deepest personal degradation. The news of the prize does not silence the scandal. In some ways, it fuels it. Even members of the Nobel Committee are rattled. One of them, a prominent Swedish scientist, writes to you, gently suggesting that in light of the circumstances, it might be better if you did not come to Stockholm to accept the award. He implies you should decline the prize until the Langevin affair is settled in court. Your reply is a masterclass in quiet dignity and unwavering resolve. You write back that the prize has been awarded for your discovery of radium and polonium. I believe, you state coolly, that there is no connection between my scientific work and the facts of private life. You inform him that you cannot accept the proposition that the appreciation of the value of scientific work should be influenced by libel and slander. You draw a firm, clear line in the sand. Your scientific merit cannot, and will not, be erased by tabloid headlines. You will be coming to Stockholm, battered, vilified, and alone. You will go and accept your prize. You return from Stockholm with your second Nobel Prize, a heavy gold medal that feels as much like a shield as it does an award. The public scandal quiets to a murmur, your unprecedented achievement forcing a grudging respect from even your harshest critics. But the physical and emotional toll has been immense. Your body, pushed beyond its limits by stress, grief, and years of unrecognized radiation exposure, finally gives out. You collapse with a severe kidney infection that requires surgery and a long, slow convalescence. During this period of forced rest, your great project continues. In the summer of 1914, the Radium Institute, a handsome brick building on a Parisian street, newly named Rue Pierre Curie, is finally completed. It is the dream you and Pierre shared, made real. A world-class center for the study of radioactivity, ready to open its doors. And then, In August, the world catches fire. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated in Sarajevo, and the intricate web of European alliances pulls the continent into the Great War. Your brand new institute, a place of peaceful scientific inquiry, is put on hold. The young scientists who were meant to fill its halls are instead called to the front lines. Your focus, once again, must pivot. You are a Polish patriot, but you are also a citizen of France, the country that, despite its recent cruelty, gave you your education, your career, and your family. You feel a profound duty to help. But how you are a 47-year-old physicist, not a soldier. You know that Röntgen's X-rays can pass through flesh, but not bone or metal. They can be used to locate bullets and shrapnel inside a wounded soldier's body, allowing surgeons to operate quickly and precisely, preventing infection, gangrene, and unnecessary amputations. The problem is that the bulky X-ray equipment exists only in city hospitals, miles from the trenches where the wounded lay. The solution comes to you in a flash of practical genius. If the soldiers cannot come to the X-ray must go to the soldiers. You conceive of a mobile radiography unit, a car or small truck containing an X-ray machine and a dynamo to generate the necessary electricity. You throw yourself into this new mission with the same intensity you once reserved for isolating elements. You become a physicist, a mechanic, an anatomy student, and a formidable fundraiser all at once, a sort of one-woman A-team for the French Red Cross. You beg and borrow, persuading wealthy Parisian society women to donate their cars and money. You learn to drive, to change tires, to clean carburetors. You study anatomy charts to better understand the wounds you will be seeing. You assemble a fleet of what will become known as petites Curies, or little Curies, a name that was both a touching tribute to you and probably a fairly accurate description of the cramped working conditions inside the vans. You realize you cannot operate them all yourself. You need a corps of trained technicians. And you start with your own daughter, Irene, now a bright and serious 17-year-old. She becomes your first assistant. It is perhaps the most intense take your daughter to work day in history. Together, you develop a curriculum and train some 150 other young women to become radiological operators, empowering a new generation with life-saving skills. You and Irene then travel to the front yourselves, driving your little Curie to casualty clearing stations just behind the lines of battle. Amidst the mud, the chaos, and the endless stream of wounded men, you are a calm, steady presence. You set up your equipment in tents, in barns, in commandeered chateaus, and you show the overwhelmed surgeons the precise location of the deadly metal fragments lodged in their patients' bodies. Military historians and her biographers continue to explore the full impact of these units. While definitive statistics are difficult to pinpoint in the chaos of war, it is estimated that over 1 million soldiers were examined by your radiological stations, saving countless lives and limbs. The war rages on, a monstrous machine of destruction, but you have found your own way to fight back. You are not wielding a weapon, but a tool of healing. The faint glow of the X-ray tube has replaced the ethereal glow of radium in your shed. It is a different kind of light, but it is one that pushes back the darkness all the same, one soldier at a time. The solitary scientist has become a hands-on savior to the men of her adopted country. The guns fall silent in November of 1918, and a bruised, weary Europe begins to pick up the pieces. You return from the battlefields to your beautiful, silent Radium Institute, The building is a triumph of architecture, a promise made real. But inside, it is an empty shell. The war has drained France of its wealth and its scientific personnel. Your dream laboratory has no modern equipment, no research budget, and very few scientists. It's like being given the keys to a magnificent new car, only to discover it has no engine, no fuel, and no one to drive it. And so, a new battle begins. This time, it's not against the mysteries of the atom or the chaos of war, but against the slow, grinding forces of bureaucracy and budgets. You, who longed only for the quiet of the laboratory, must now become a full-time administrator, fundraiser, and global advocate for your institute. You pour the same determination that isolated radium into writing grant proposals and navigating university politics. Your vision for the institute is twofold: a perfect marriage of the pure and the practical. One wing, which you will direct, is dedicated to fundamental research in physics and chemistry, the continuation of your life's work. The other wing is a medical laboratory focused on studying the therapeutic applications of radiation in treating cancer, a field that would come to be known as Curie therapy. The degree to which your practical, life-saving experiences in the war shifted your perspective from pure research to include medical application is a subject of ongoing scholarly discussion. But it is clear you now see both sides of the coin: the need to understand the universe, and the duty to use that understanding to help humanity. A great and painful irony haunts your work. You are the woman who gave the world radium, and now you can barely afford it. In the years since your discovery, radium has become the most precious substance on Earth, worth a fortune gram by gram. It's used and often misused in everything from legitimate cancer treatments to quack medicines and glowing paint for watch dials. Radium has become the world's most exclusive VIP, and your own institute, the very place of its birth, can't even get on the guest list. You have only a single gram to share between all your researchers. This poverty is a direct result of one of your most profound and deeply held principles. Years ago, you and Pierre had made the conscious decision not to patent the process for isolating radium. You believed that scientific knowledge was for the benefit of all, not for personal profit. In today's world, that decision would likely give a team of intellectual property lawyers a collective heart attack. But for you, it was a simple and non-negotiable truth. Knowledge wasn't a product to be sold. While this act of selfless idealism enriched the world, it left your own institute struggling for resources. Slowly, you begin to populate your labs, not just with equipment, but with brilliant young minds. You cultivate a new generation of scientists, the children of radium, who flock to Paris from all over the world to learn from the great Madame Curie. You create a unique environment where women are not just welcomed, but are expected to excel. And at the heart of it all is your daughter, Irene. No longer the teenage assistant from the war, she has blossomed into a formidable physicist in her own right, becoming your chief collaborator and most trusted colleague. A new scientific partnership has been forged, this one between mother and daughter. The Radium Institute becomes the world's epicenter for the study of radioactivity. Under your quiet, firm guidance, it is a place of intense work, groundbreaking discoveries, and boundless hope. You have succeeded. You have built your monument to Pierre. Not a cold statue in a park, but a living, breathing institution that pushes the boundaries of human knowledge every day. As you walk its halls at night, the lights glowing in the various laboratories. You can feel it humming with the energy of the future. The legacy is secure, but to give it the final resource it needs to thrive, you will have to embark on one last, unexpected journey. Your Radium Institute is alive. It is a humming beehive of research, a beacon for the new science of the atom. But the hive, for all its brilliant workers, is desperately short on nectar. That nectar is radium, the very element you gave to the world, now so rare and astronomically expensive that your own institute cannot afford to procure what it needs for its experiments. The future you so carefully built rests on a knife's edge, dependent on the single gram you possess. The solution arrives from a completely unexpected direction, in the form of a determined American journalist named Marie Mattingly Melanie, who the world knows as Missy. In 1920, she travels to Paris to interview you, the legendary Madame Curie. During your conversation, she asks to see your stores of radium, expecting a vault lined with the precious substance. You lead her to a safe and show her your entire supply. One small vial. Missy Maloney is so profoundly shocked she nearly drops her notepad. It was, for her, like visiting Thomas Edison and discovering he worked by candlelight, or speaking to Alexander Graham Bell and finding out he had no telephone. This fiercely energetic American journalist is not content to simply write a story about this injustice. She decides to rewrite the ending. Returning to the United States, she launches a nationwide fundraising campaign, the Marie Curie Radium Fund. Her appeal is aimed directly at the women of America. She asks them to donate, dollar by dollar, to raise the $100,000 needed to purchase 1 gram of radium from the Standard Chemical Company in Pittsburgh and gift it to you. The story captures the heart of a nation. Donations pour in, from wealthy philanthropists to school children giving their pennies. The campaign is a wild success. In 1921, you are invited to America to receive this extraordinary gift in person. For you, the invitation is both a blessing and a curse. You are now in your mid-50s, your health permanently damaged by your life's work. Your hands are scarred and burned by radiation. You suffer from cataracts, and a deep, abiding fatigue is your constant companion. The thought of a long sea voyage followed by a public tour is terrifying. But you must go. For your institute, for the future of your science, you must endure it. With your 2 daughters, Irene and Eve, by your side for support, you sail to New York. The reception is overwhelming, a tidal wave of American enthusiasm and adoration. You are treated not just as a scientist, but as a global superstar, a secular saint. The trip becomes a grueling marathon of public appearances. It's less of a scientific visit and more like the world's most exhausting and intellectually demanding rock tour, minus the actual music and comfortable tour bus. There are ticker tape parades, endless banquets, and a dizzying number of honorary degrees bestowed upon you from the country's most prestigious universities. The psychological toll of this American tour is a recurring theme in your biographies, with some scholars emphasizing your physical frailty and exhaustion, while others focus on your quiet, steely endurance in the face of such an onslaught. The pinnacle of the journey takes place on a bright May afternoon on the lawn of the White House. President Warren G. Harding stands before you, delivering a speech full of praise for your genius and humanitarianism. He then presents you with a small, ornate key. The key unlocks a handsome lead-lined mahogany casket which holds the prize 1 gram of pure radium, a substance representing the collective goodwill of a nation. As you stand there, Frail and blinking in the sunlight, you perform one last brilliant act of due diligence. You ask to see the deed of gift. Reading the document carefully, you notice the radium is deeded to the Radium Institute, not to you personally. With your quiet but unshakable authority, you insist that the document be reworded. The gift must be to you, Marie Curie, so that you may use it as you see fit and, crucially, bequeath it to your institute without any legal claim from the French government. The American officials, awed by your foresight, quickly make the change. It is a final, savvy checkmate, ensuring that your scientific baby, this precious gram of radium, will remain in the family of your institute forever. You return to France, utterly spent, but triumphant. You have the tool your children of radium need. You have secured the future. Now, you can finally retreat from the world stage, leaving the noise and the crowds behind, and spend your remaining years in the place you have always been the happiest, in the quiet of the laboratory, nurturing your science and its future. You return to Paris with the American radium safely secured in its lead-lined casket. Your final great public quest is over. Now, in the twilight of your life, you can finally retreat into the world you built, the world you love. The Radium Institute becomes your sanctuary and your kingdom. You are its gentle, undisputed queen, a global icon who lives a life of profound modesty, often taking the tram to work, your mind still wrestling with the universe's secrets. Your focus shifts almost entirely to your scientific children, the researchers who fill the Institute's halls. You guide their experiments, edit their papers, and nurture their careers with a quiet, maternal intensity. Your greatest pride is watching your daughter, Irène, flourish. She and her brilliant husband, Frédéric Joliot, are now the vibrant heart of the Institute, a scientific partnership that echoes the one you once shared with Pierre. In the early weeks of 1934, they make a discovery that brings you a deep and final joy. While bombarding aluminum with particles from your polonium, they find that the aluminum itself has become radioactive. They have created a new, artificial radioactive isotope. They have learned not just to observe radioactivity, but to create it. It is a monumental achievement, the dawning of a new age of nuclear physics and medicine. The student has not just become the master, she has opened an entirely new chapter in the book her mother wrote. It is the fulfillment of the scientific dynasty you and Pierre had dreamed of. All those years ago, on your bicycles, you lived just long enough to see them nominated for the Nobel Prize they will eventually win. But even as this new light dawns, your own is fading. The decades of intimate work with your powerful, glowing elements have taken their final, inevitable toll. The constant fatigue has deepened into a profound weakness. Your hands, which once stirred cauldrons of pitchblende, can now barely hold a pen. The element you gave to the world, the source of your fame and the engine of your life's work, was now quietly, inexorably, taking your life in return. The full extent of her awareness of the dangers of radiation remains a point of gentle contention among historians. She had insisted on safety measures for her researchers, yet she herself often handled radioactive materials with a startling lack of caution, carrying vials in her pocket and marveling at their glow. Was it a belief that her own body was somehow immune, or the simple, tragic fact that she was the first to walk this path, with no one to warn her of where it truly led? Doctors are baffled by your rapid decline. But you You tell Ev that you believe the cause is your old enemy and friend, radium. You retreat to a sanatorium high in the French Alps, the clean, quiet mountain air, a stark contrast to the charged atmosphere of your laboratory. There, on the 4th of July, 1934, at the age of 66, you finally let go. The official cause of death is aplastic anemia, a bone marrow disease we now know is a classic result of prolonged radiation exposure. You were, in the truest sense, a martyr to your own discovery. You are buried next to Pierre, a quiet ceremony for a life that was anything but. Decades later, in 1995, in a gesture of ultimate national honor, France moves your remains, along with Pierre's, to the Pantheon in Paris. You become the first woman to be interred there on her own merits, a permanent resident among the nation's greatest heroes, and your legacy continues to glow, quite literally. Today, your laboratory notebooks, your scientific papers, even your personal cookbooks from the 1890s are still so intensely radioactive that they are stored in lead-lined boxes at France's National Library. To consult them, a researcher must sign a waiver and wear protective clothing, as if entering a sacred, contaminated tomb. It is a quiet, haunting reminder that, when you touched the very fabric of the universe, some of its strange, powerful, and eternal dust stayed on your hands forever. And so, the story of Manya Skłodowska, the girl from Warsaw who became Pierre Curie, the woman who changed our world, comes to a gentle close. Her light, once a faint glow in a dark shed, now illuminates our understanding of the very nature of reality. As her story fades into the quiet of history, perhaps you can feel your own thoughts beginning to soften and drift. The journey is over. The work is done. Let the gentle darkness behind your eyelids feel as peaceful as the star-filled sky over the Alps. There are no more problems to solve tonight, no more elements to discover. There is only the soft rhythm of your own breathing, a quiet, steady presence in the stillness of your room. Allow the last echoes of this story to become a gentle hum, a soft background whisper that carries you down into a deep and truly restful sleep. Let go of the day and just float now on the quiet, peaceful current of your own dreams.